Welcome back to Toyota Sports Talk. We've got Jake Russell with the Washington Post joining us today. Always great to talk some DC sports with Jake. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic, Natalie. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Always great having you on the program. You're our Nationals guru, our DC Defenders guru as well. So we're going to dive into both of those teams. Let's start with our Nationals. They were able to finally kind of get over a 5-game losing slump that was their longest of the season. But there's some good things we have seen, some bad things we have seen from this group so far into the season. Kind of how would you explain kind of what you've seen on your end?
So the positives for them offensively, they've been really aggressive on the base paths with stealing bases and, turning a nice double. If someone's in scoring position at second base, if you slap a single in the gaps in the outfield, they're really good at turning a score from second to home. They're really good at manufacturing runs because they don't have the power at the plate to hit all these home runs, even though they scored 12 runs on Monday. They showed what they can do, but that's not consistently what they are or will be the rest of the year. They've been great at manufacturing runs, but they also get into really cold streaks. The pitching has been solid year-round for the whole season so far. They've had a couple, not great performances, but for the most part, they've pitched better than the expectations they had when the season started. I think they just need more power in that lineup, and I know everyone's chomping at the bit to get James Wood called up from AAA because he's been displaying power all season, even dating back to being in Major League spring training with the team. There are a few guys on that roster that I feel like you could easily just knock off the lineup in order to get James Wood up there. I know there's also, there's an exhibit A of putting someone in the big leagues before possibly catering towards the fans, like Jackson Holiday. He was tearing it up at AAA for the Norfolk Tides, and they called him up, and he just went on a complete slump to start. It was like polar opposite of how he'd been performing. He had sped through the minor leagues, low A, high A, double A, triple A, and he was just tearing up the minor leagues. And then they called him up, and he didn't perform the way that they expected him to. So they sent him back down. Keep the seasoning going in AAA, get his groove under him. So I think the Nats have been seeing that as a precautionary tale. But I feel like if James Wood has the mental makeup to not let a slump or anything like that bother him, because it's baseball, every single player slumps. Pitchers, batters, everybody has bad streaks going for them. I feel like if he has the mental makeup to where he doesn't let it bother him or weigh on him or affect anything he does in the future, he'll be fine. That's possibly the one thing they're waiting on for him is to, finalize, or have confirmation that his mental makeup is, don't let the little things bother you. But I hopefully he'll be called up sooner rather than later because that'll be a nice little shot in the arm for the team as the year goes forward.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point because, Davey said at the beginning of the season, there is no timeline for something like this. Of course, they would love to have him join the big team. But again, there's the mental side of it. Again, the performance side of it. There's so many little things that need to add up in order to make it make sense. But with that being said, as if the Nats continue kind of this lack of hitting, that lack of power at the play, do you think that is a bigger incentive to bring him up sooner rather than later?
I feel like they're not going to rush their top prospects because of how this current team is performing. I feel like the very beginning of their future makeup of that team will begin next season. If they decide to actually spend big in free agency or swing a trade, they really need a power batter too. They really need another starting pitcher to replace Corbin in the rotation once he gets off the books as a free agent this offseason. I feel like they're not going to rush a prospect for the sake of doing it as much as anybody. I would love to see James Wood up in the majors right now because it would just be fun to watch and see how he acquiesces, how quickly he adjusts to the league. But yeah, I don't think they're going to try to make any minor league decisions, based on any major trends for the 2024 Major League club.
I want to switch gears now, talk to our DC Defenders, because like we said before we hopped on, you blink and the season's already almost over. 2 more games for our Defenders at 3-5, and big loss this past weekend to the Battlehawks, who were able to clinch a playoff spot with that win. Again, it hasn't been too hot of a season for our DC Defenders. Any hopes, though, this far in the year that a playoff berth is possible?
No, unfortunately, on Sunday, they were eliminated with the loss to the Battlehawks and the victory by the San Antonio Brahmas. So this season has not been, what the Defenders fans and the Defenders themselves had hoped for. They lost their top 3 wide receivers from last year. Probably the biggest blow, even on top of that, was their star running back, Abram Smith, who led the XFL in rushing last year, tore his ACL in training camp. So the way the offense is run this year, they've not had a good running game. The passing game has not really been in sync. It's been a tough year for them. The defense struggled several times throughout the year, but overall they performed very well. The problem is you just don't have in baseball it'd be run support. In football, you don't have the offense and the point support to help them out. Also they don't sustain drives well enough either to keep the defense off the field and fresh. So, but we'll see how the final 2 weeks go. I'm not sure what to expect, and I'm not sure if anybody else knows what to expect. But all the players on the field are going to be fighting for their jobs and fighting for having scouts look at them and give them an opportunity going forward. So at least there's going to be 100% effort on both sides of the ball.
Is there any one or two players on the Defenders that maybe could crack a training camp, snag a spot maybe on an NFL roster in these next few months?
The guy who stands out to me the most is their kicker, Matt McCrane. He's been really solid all season. McCrane has put on some good film this year. So I think if the team needs a kicker in camp, he's a good person to consider bringing into training camp.
All right, we're giving some love to the kickers. It doesn't often happen, but here we are. Jake Russell joining us today on Toyota Sports Talk. Jake, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, stay with us. We've got more Toyota Sports Talk coming your way in just a little bit.